Hi, welcome back to CJ Does. Today we're going to go outside and do some woodworking and build a puppet theater stage for my wife's pre-kindergarten class. Let's get outside. Alright, so let's collect our materials. For this we're going to use one 2-foot by 4-foot pressure treated piece of plywood, two 2x6s pressure treated also, and I think we're just going to need something to hold it up while we make some cuts. So we're just going to grab these 2x4s to hold everything up elevated while we make our first series of cuts. Just using a speed square here, marking out our lines that we're going to cut along so that we can make our first couple cuts. We're just going to make a simple box that this piece of plywood is going to sit on, 2-foot by 4-foot. So we're going to make some 2-foot sections, some 4-foot sections. A little bit shorter than 4-foot though because of the sides. Or no, shorter. The 2-foot sections are a little bit shorter. But we're just going to make our cuts on 2x6s here. So it'll be about 6-inch platform, a little bit higher than that for the stage, so that it'll elevate the children a little bit above everyone who is watching and give them a little bit of a space to showcase their puppets. Once everything's cut, we're just going to do simple screwed in butt joints here with the 2x6s, just driving 2 screws in, squaring everything up, making everything nice and square, and then just driving in 2 screws on one side, going to the other side, screwing in the other 2, making sure it's nice and even, flat against that piece of plywood. I'm going to drive in the next screw here. Have a little bit of difficulty keeping the screw together and making sure that it's going in. So it's not really working here. Gonna have to try a different spot. There we go. Goes in nice and easy right there. And we've got our first side attached. We're just gonna flip this over. Get our next piece ready to be screwed on. And I have a little difficulty here holding it together, so best thing to do in a situation like this, grab a clamp, use that as your extra set of hands, keep that piece of wood where you want it, get the clamp out of the way, and just hold it together and drive that screw in right where you want it. And another screw for the other side. And doing the other side, again, using the clamp, driving in a screw while we've got it all clamped together. Take off the clamp, or adjust it, make sure that it's holding everything nice and tight. Drive that screw in. And drive in the final screw, making the completed box that we're going to use as a stage. Now to add a little bit of extra stability and support underneath, we're going to use 2 more pieces that we had left over, drop them in, make sure they keep everything square and stable, and add a little extra strength to the top when the stage is on top so that it doesn't sag or bow or snap. With a stage this size, it probably isn't too big of a deal, but just to make sure everything goes okay. And just making sure and measuring to make sure everything's nice and evenly spaced, and then driving in the screws again on these center pieces, these center supports. And then we just add the top. Place the top right on there. Make sure everything's square and aligned. And drive in our screws. Straight down from the top, keeping everything where it's supposed to be. Adjusting when we need to, driving in the screws. A little trouble with that screw there. Fixing it and drive it in the last couple screws to make sure that this stage is pretty much complete at this point, but this is not just what we're going to do. We want this stage to be able to be moved around and roll, so we got these casters, these step-down casters, so that the kids and the teachers could move this around. Really, the teachers are the ones who are going to be moving this around. The kids are a little too small, too little to be moving this around. So we built these step-down casters. These are 6-inch step-down casters. They're for workbenches. They work on about a 6-inch height. So these 2x6s were great for using these casters. Here we are just putting them together, assembling them. They came unassembled. Got these online. And we did assemble them a little bit incorrectly at first. Had to go in and do some adjusting to make sure that they were built correctly. And you'll see that coming up. But these were really simple to get put together. They were about 4 pieces, including the wheel. And they came with this fantastic template. You just line it up with the bottom of the piece, mark it where your screws are going, and hold your caster brace up and drive in your screw, and you're all set. You drive 2 screws. You drive 1 in the top, 1 in the bottom. There were instructions for using 4 screws if you were doing different casters or different wheel sizes, I believe. But once that's all on there, drive 1 screw in the top, next screw in the bottom, and you've got your casters pretty much assembled and on the base of this stage. And then add the wheels right after. Of course, we had a error when we were putting these together, so that silver part that is kind of U-shaped right now, or is U-shaped, is supposed to be U-shaped. We added it N-shaped. It's kind of curving at the top, or has the space at the top, and that's incorrect. So once we were done, had to actually go back, figure out what the issue was, and realize that these were installed incorrectly. Had to just pull this piece out, simply undoing this bolt and nut, take the piece, flip it around, and reinstall it. Really a simple fix. Probably something we should have looked at before we did this, but my mistake, and just showing that if you make a mistake like this, just finding the problem and fixing it is pretty simple and easy. Again here, showing again the problem, the silver piece facing the wrong way. Had to take it out, flip it around, reinstall it, and you'll see the locking caster. The way it works is that when you step down on the lever at the top, it actually holds the channel so that the wheel does not slide left and right off of the place. And here we are drilling in some holes for these U-bracket pipe holders. These are U-braces for pipes. So the way that this stage is going to come together is we used some natural wood sticks. Now my wife teaches a very Reggio Emilia inspired pre-kindergarten class, so it's all about using natural woods or natural materials. So using these natural sticks and limbs to build this stage is really inspiring for her. So but to hold them in place, we added these U-bolts to hold in the large limbs that are going to make the A-frame that is going to be the front and the rear of the stage. And just simply adding these U-brackets, pipe clamps. Not really sure what their exact name is, but once they're on there, we'll show you how they are used. So with those in place, taking these large limbs that we found off of a tree and installing them in those brackets, and then there they are, they're holding up. And just for a little bit of added security, adding some screws to hold the limbs in place. And we did this on the front and back, so 2 on the front of the stage and 2 more on the back of the stage. So this one fits 2 and 2 more right here. 2 screws here for the final A-frame for the stage. And here we have it with the 2 A's, and then we just added a cross piece and started wrapping that with some vines that we found on our property that we just wanted to keep that natural look and keep everything kind of together and make it look like it was being held together. But of course, for added security, a couple screws driven in to each of the pieces to keep it stable and structurally secure. And doing a little bit more wrapping on the other side also helped cover up the screws and really gave the natural look of what the stage was going for pretty clear. And again, a couple screws to hold everything in place once it was all together. And there's my wife just wrapping up on the right side. She's doing the other side, covering up the screws and wrapping around with more of the vines. And here we have the stage where it was at that point. But just to add a little more rigidity, we added these angled cross pieces, and it added a kind of a archway for the entries on the 2 sides, because the front and back are going to be the stage, where there's going to be a curtain and a for a puppet theater. And the final screws going in for the last brace. And then here we just drilled some small holes as we installed these little black hooks that are going to act as holders for the curtain rods that are going to hold the curtains for the stage. 2 on the upper half and 2 on the lower half, and there is our final completed stage. And here we'll see it right when it was actually done. Didn't get any footage of this, but here's a nice, lovely photo of it in place. You can see the front curtain where it's going to be a puppet theater, and then on the back there's another curtain where they can do like a regular stage play.
So I hope you enjoyed watching us build that puppetry theater for a pre-kindergarten class. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. And as always, this is what CJ does.